Good evening. Welcome to Kung Fu Havoc 2. My name is James Williams Jr., and tonight I am your comic book liaison. It is January the 26th, 2016, according to this clock. So, for the next two videos, I am your comic book liaison. It's time so that this computer can sit on my lap without so much as causing a problem. So, first, let's talk about a few things. Like why I didn't lock the door before I started video blogging. That was pretty stupid of me. Okay, that problem is solved. Now, let's get to the real matter of facts. First video, I want to point something out real quick. That DC and Marvel, and there's a lot of confusion that's about to happen right here, right now. Both of them have touched on things like TV shows and movies and made them into comic books. One of my favorite movies of all times also got made into a comic book. The Last Starfighter. I don't know if this thing's going to show up right on y'all side, because apparently this camera flips things around. But this is a good movie. I'm believing it was a movie first, because back in 19 something or another that I can't make out. 84 looks like. Back in 84, I was reading anything but like the off things. This I know for sure was a movie first. Buckaroo Banzai. That's supposed to be Peter Weller. You know him as RoboCop, the original RoboCop. But before he was RoboCop, I remember him as Buckaroo Banzai. And for the record, he's supposed to be half Japanese and half white. Alright. Henceforth name, Buckaroo Banzai. Now, got one more before I touch upon what I really started on. Indiana Jones. Movie came first, comic book came second. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Let me get that out of the way in case I'm wrong. But I do want to point out that I have some other things here that are going to surprise you. Tarzan. See that? Tarzan. Marvel. Tarzan. DC. So I went through some of my second dad's comic books and I found these things. It's like, no damn wonder why there's so much bloody confusion going on. You got Tarzan Lord of the Jungle from Marvel. And still Tarzan Lord of the Jungle from Marvel. And then you have Tarzan Family, Giant Size from DC. So I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of weird. No, but I guess TV shows and movies went differently. Now, I couldn't find the DC ones, but I do know that they exist. And when I find them, I'll be sure to bring them up. But it's a Star Trek. All of these are Marvel. So, Star Trek did these. Marvel did these. DC also has Star Trek. I just don't have them in this pile of stuff. Oh, I stand corrected. I do have Star Trek in DC. Marvel, DC. I'm really not sure, which sagas they did, but I know that Marvel did, damn near all of them. A couple of independent comic books also did them. So, if there's any confusion, then I'm truly sorry. But I just want to point that out that, back in the 80s, Marvel and DC both did TV show comic books. They took them from the TV show, and I guess you could expand more, because they didn't really have the rights to them, but they could carry the characters wherever they wanted to carry them, stuff like that. So depending on your fanfare there, if you're more Marvel or DC, also depending on your age, you would know more about this than me, because like I said, I mostly was an X-Men fan, And speaking of which, I'm gonna not do X-Men, but I'm gonna bring up a team of Avengers you guys know of, the West Coast Avengers for Marvel. And we're gonna start with Marvel first. So in the West Coast Avengers, that's Tigra, Mockingbird, Hawkeye, Iron Man, and Wonder Man. That would be Wonder Man. I have no idea who this guy is because I'm not gonna read the book to you, but he's there. And then there's Ultron. Alright, so we got that established. Marvel has also had things that I just didn't have time to go and I just kind of got random comics to show y'all, things that y'all probably don't remember. But Marvel Presents was always good. Yeah, there's always something really interesting in Marvel Presents for those people who are Marvel fans who don't have a specific genre comic book character that they like. I never understood Wally, so I never got him. You know, Second Father's comics. You know, Solomon Kane is good. You know, never understood him, but you know, Squadron Supreme. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not gonna swear to it. But I think that's Hyperion, which would be kind of funny because I thought Hyperion was a good guy when I was younger. And in the new Avengers cartoon, comic, and everything, he's anything but. I'm gonna read this tonight, find out if that really is Hyperion. But these are cartoons I used to watch when I was a kid. The real Thundercats, and yeah, I did watch these little Care Bear fellas. I have no idea who that chick is. Look like, oh, well, I guess her name is Misty. Duh. You know, the Eternals. You know, these are some books, you know, if you want to, like, source material, you want something good from Marvel. I don't know if they're really, really good, because some of them I haven't read. But we always loved the guy that's having an affair with Sue Richards at one time. Namor the Submariner. You know, this one's just Prince Namor, and that one's Prince Namor. But he did have another comic called Namor the Submariner, which wasn't Prince Namor. I think it was like a rough cut or something. And we have Khazar, the Savage Lands, Lord of the Savage Lands or whatever. You know, he was always good. And he's mostly famous due to the X-Men. He was technically an X-Man. And for more Marvel, Cyforce. I didn't really get into them. I heard they were kind of, you know, offbeat for my taste. So I'm going to read them and figure out what I want. I've never heard of this guy, Star Brand. So I'm going to check him out too. And I never heard of Bald the Brave. But like I said, Marvel has good source material. They will never run out of things they can make at Disney if they really need to focus. You know. Then we did all the Star Trek and movie things. Alright, so you've seen some strange things from Marvel. You probably heard of them. This depends on your comic book fanfare or your comic book fan base. We touched on Tarzan. So now let's talk about some strange things from DC Comics that you probably don't really remember. Like Blue Devil, not to be mistaken with Etrigan, because Etrigan is red. Devil is blue. I forget his background story, but I remember him. The original Firestorm. No. And surprise, surprise to me, just like Marvel, because the West Coast Avengers had Hercules, DC has Hercules. Because you can't really put rights on a god. You know, not really. Whether it be a legendary god or a mythical god, you can't really own the copyrights to it because all the places that they come from would own your ass. Steel. Not John Henry Iron Steel, but Steel. And this is known as the Indestructible Man. I don't really remember him. Like I said, I'm really not a big DC fan as much as I am a Marvel fan. These are the Star Treks. And Hawkman. We all remember Hawkman. And Hawkgirl. Things are a little bit different now than they were way back when this was released. Now this is a good read if you're into graphic novels. Now, I'm not a DC fan, but I will give it up to the one and only Frank Miller. Now, this here is a pretty good graphic novel. Alright. It's got damn near everything you want. If you're into martial arts, this is definitely for you. You know, if you're just into good artwork, then this is definitely for you. You know, I'm gonna give you a little glimpse. So did you see? There's so many things that both Marvel and DC have as resource material, and if you're a comic book fan, you know, I would recommend that you find something a little bit out of your comfort zone to read. Like I said, this Boulder the Brave, I've never heard of him. So before the night's over, I'm going to read a little bit more about Boulder the Brave. And the same thing with Starbrand, because they are people I've never heard of. But it probably is not that I haven't heard of them, it's just that they weren't X-Men and they weren't Spider-Man. And if they ever crossed over, because Marvel also did Red Sonja, which was also a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. And they also did Conan, which was also a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. But, important fact, very important fact, Conan was a book before it was a comic book. And then it became a magazine, and then it became a comic book. So, if you want to dig into Conan, they have like the big magazines, like Heavy Metal, and then they have the normal size magazines. Pretty sure Marvel did the normal size. I won't remember who in the hell did the big one. So, in closing, because my thing is glitching, I just want you to know that as your comic books are for the night, you should probably look into reading more titles than just your favorite titles. It's the same thing that I would tell anybody about DC, because, you know, the only titles I ever really stuck with was Batman, The Flash, sometimes Superman, just depends on what the cover looks like, and Green Lantern Corps. But, you know, I did read a little Blue Devil and a little Etrigan when I was younger, but I didn't take them home because it just wasn't my thing. You know, anything that looked like a devil was not coming into my grandmother's house. And my mom wasn't really going to let them come in either. But I did was allowed to bring Jonah Hex in because I was 3. You know, and, you know, he wants to hear a 3-year-old screaming at the top of his lungs because he can't read his comic book. Enough said. This is Kung Fu Habit number 2. I am James Williams Jr. I'm out. Thank you.